let me open up the conversation with the first theme, as I would to focus more around what is it that we are seeing in terms of the benefits, the use cases, the real applications of AI in some of the sector, and invite Rishi to talk about what is your experience in terms of doing business digitally, contactless, and how AI use cases or AI applications are helping to enable that entire end-to-end delivery of services in the financial services. So, Rishi, would you like to share some thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you, Sudipta. I think you are trying to cover two things. One is in terms of digitization in this COVID scenario, and secondly, in terms of the AI, the use of AI in financial services as such. So I'll address the first on the digitization first. See, on digitization, what we are seeing is that as Fino, let me just give you a background. We are a phygital company, a phygital bank. We have access to about 250,000 merchants or points all across the country. And we do about nearly about 2.5 crore transactions physically per month. So for us to be physically present is very important because our customer audience is people who are in lower to middle income categories, and they are largely non-digital, non-smartphone kind of a world. So in this scenario, what we were looking at in terms of as the physical challenges are coming, how do we do the entire thing on virtualization? And we are moving big time on moving everything on digitization. See, when Demon happened, we see a lot of digitization happening at the customer end. The customer started to use wallets and other digital tools to do the business. During this pandemic, we expect a lot of digitization happening on the B2B side, a lot of digitization happening on how to engage and do RPAs internally. So virtualization is becoming the norm. Just to give you an example, the other day we were discussing a challenge in terms of doing physical verification in some of our branches where we could not travel. And so we said, why don't we do virtualization of physical verification? So we are thinking of even going to steps like doing person used to go to a branch to do physical verification. How do we make it to a video program in which you can do physical verification of cash to a video program? So things like that, I think everything is open. Video KYC is something which has recently been launched. We are also in the process of launching it. That will change the entire KYC platform for the banks in times to come. So during COVID, during pandemic, I think digitization is taking center stage in every decisioning, every meetings in the company. And we are keeping a very, very open mind that if there is any problem, completely you have to move from face to face to non-face to face. So why do people need to travel? Why do we need to even go for meetings? And we have been able to do sales, which used to be physically, we have to be present. So we have been able to consume sales. We are able to do some tie-ups with some companies, some banks. Even government meetings are now happening on virtual platforms. So a lot of things have moved. The entire mindset has changed completely because of COVID, and I think this is going to be the new normal in terms of virtualization in a big way, digitalization in a big way. You came on email, I think entry of fintechs, the digital hands of some of which is paramount. Banks have started to invest big time and big money in AI ML technologies. Just to give you some examples in terms of what we guys are doing or banks are normally doing in on using AI ML is largely around 3-4 factors. One is in terms of enhancing the customer experience, whether through chatbots or through transactions through chatbots, product recommendations, engaging with the tech-savvy millennials. In fact, the customer behavior is changing towards that, and banks are adopting quite well on the AI ML platforms. The second is more internal is how do we improve employee productivity? How can we make routine tasks more automated? Something like central operations getting more and more automated as such. I think the biggest use case till now, which banks have been successful, especially on the AI/ML, is minimizing the risk and fraud detection. We have seen examples of credit cards getting blocked, transactions getting you getting called from a bank saying you have done a transaction right now. Is it your transaction? So a lot of fraud management and fraud risk things have happened through AI/ML. I think one good thing which is happening and around the regulatory and compliance, also adopting AI/ML, especially on the KYC AML piece. So that is another area where we are seeing a lot of adoption on AI/ML on KYC and AML piece. One thing which we in Fino are doing quite successful with one of our partners is lead conversion. So we have like we have about 250,000 merchants. Whenever we get a lead from the system, we are able to identify that this lead on a social media, whether it's a lead or a complaint, and accordingly we move it to the respective buckets. So if it's a lead conversion, we also try to use that lead conversion to which merchant we should focus that lead into. So and that is based on the productivity of that particular merchant in the past month or so. So a lot of those specific examples have been built up. But I think on financial services, also because of the pandemic, there is going to be a big thrust on the digitization and usage of AI/ML. I think AI/ML is or digitization is not a talk and left as the technology or with the digital officers. It has become a boardroom discussion right now. So that's where I would like to probably share my opening remarks.
Great. No, I think those are very, very relevant examples, Rishi, which you gave. And I think, the points around improving the customer experience, also improving the internal productivity and remaining compliant with the regulators are some of the great, use cases, which I think, as you rightly pointed out, the current situation will only add to it because there is now a need for getting things done, as you said, in a more virtual world as opposed to physically going and meeting your customer.